Hi, I'm Kelly. As a life coach, I've noticed that the work I do with people isn't about their relationships or their jobs. It isn't about their kids or even how to find a way to get all the laundry done. All the work we do together centers around finding the answer to one simple question. What does it mean to live a fulfilled life? Join me as I explore this question and more in conversation with others in the Fulfilling Life Interviews with me, Kelly Dahl, as your host. Hello, it's Kelly again, and I'm here today talking fulfillment with Kate Swoboda. Kate, would you please start by telling the viewers a little bit about yourself and the beautiful work you do?
Sure. My name is Kate Swoboda, also known around the internet as Kate Courageous. I write over at yourcourageouslife.com, and I'm a writer and a teacher and someone who is really passionate about helping people to I used to say, live with courage. Lately, I've been saying more so, see the truth of their lives, which necessarily encapsulates courage. But that's what comes to me in this moment, is see the truth, see what's really happening, and take action from there.
Oh, I like that, because that involves a whole lot of courage, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But the truth is really so much at the heart of it. I love that. Thanks. Well, today, as you know, we're talking about fulfillment, and what I would love to hear is from you, what does it mean to live a fulfilled life?
Probably the most important question that I ask myself when I, do like an end of year review, or really when I'm in any kind of a sticky situation, is what would integrity look like? And to me, integrity and fulfillment are highly correlated. Because if I don't have integrity, I can get something that I want and still not feel fulfilled. And I'll give you an example of that. There have been times in running a business where I really wanted to generate more money. And I really was attached to this idea that if I were making more money, I'd be happier. And then I'd have something happen, like a launch would go really well, or I'd get an influx of new clients and I'd make more money. And I wasn't necessarily happier. It wasn't necessarily fulfillment, because there was a lack of integrity going on. And the lack of integrity was trying to use money or trying to use anything external to get the fulfillment. So I think that there's, when I'm in integrity with myself, I can be in a situation where someone in my life is unhappy with me. But if I know that I'm in integrity, I can feel fulfilled in that relationship, if that makes sense. I can still know that I'm walking my talk, that I hold them with love, that I'm looking for where we can find common ground. So fulfillment doesn't have to be everything's peachy. Fulfillment really, for me, just dials down to, am I right with me? Am I right with myself? Do I know I did the best I could? And another thing about that I like is that it takes me out of goals, and I got to get over there somewhere. There's nowhere over there that I got to get if I'm in integrity with me.
Right. And it's internal to you that you're answering those questions and doing your own work, as opposed to anything external, whether it's a person you're in relationship with or something like money. I think that's a wonderful, it sounds to me like it's a great touchstone for you to just come back to that over and over and over again as a way to guide yourself to being fulfilled. It's beautiful. Now, what are some of the more detailed or specific ways, besides that sort of integrity mantra that you have, that you go about living a fulfilled life?
Well, I think that, I don't know that I can separate it from the integrity. fulfillment to me used to mean a lot of different things. It used to mean vision boarding, and it used to mean dreaming big, and all these sort of pithy mantras that you see in the self-help world. And one of the things that I've discovered about working with courage, especially because my circle of what I am, my circle of comfort, my comfort zone, so to speak, has just gotten wider and wider and wider the more that I practice courage. So there's less and less and less that I'm afraid of all the time. And I thought for so long that the idea was that I'd figure out what this thing was that I wanted, or what my big dream was, and that I felt afraid of getting it, so I'd work to make it happen. If I did that work, then I'd feel fulfilled. Again, this externalization. Mm-hmm. And I'm really finding that fulfillment is more a being than a doing. There aren't things I do to be fulfilled. I either am fulfilled because it's what I'm choosing. Maybe that's as close to doing as we can get here. Choosing fulfillment, and that is always bound up with integrity. Because I'm not, okay, so let's say that I'm agitated, and someone might go, well, how are you going to choose fulfillment when you're agitated? Oh, my fucking agitation, that's how. I'm going to be fulfilled from the authenticity that comes from not trying to slap an affirmation on it, and just be where I am. And also have the integrity not to go down a spiral, although I'll always be there. It's always this way. Poor me, I'm such a victim. I can just be in the agitation, not run a story. And that can be a really fulfilling experience. Now, right about now, I'm very aware of how many people will be listening to this and thinking that I'm batshit crazy. But I keep thinking that what's really batshit crazy is the way that we spin ourselves all the time, trying to get over there, trying to get balanced, trying to get figured out. And we can really, as humans, just take anything that could be an incredibly loving, rich, fulfilling experience. And when we start to externalize it, or put it out there, or make it about a to-do list of things that we have to tick off, it just sucks all the fulfillment out of it. Mm-hmm. So I guess if I summarized it, I'd say I can't extract it from the integrity, that it's highly individual to the experience, and that fulfillment is always about how am I choosing to be when I show up with someone else, or with something that I desire, or with some way that I want to live in my life. Yeah.
I hear you saying a lot of that makes me think about being present to whatever it is, even if it's the agitated mood, or angry, or sad, or whatever it is that people try to avoid and not feel and think isn't a part of fulfillment, but it's a part of it all. I was thinking about the whole idea of process as well, as you were talking, that it's not getting to that external goal. And I thought of this when you were talking about the money goal as well. It's not about that money if the process of it isn't filling you up as you're doing it, because that money isn't going to fill you up if you aren't fulfilled as you're doing and being. Yeah,
and it's so common for people to say money isn't everything. And then someone will go, okay, so money isn't everything, but friends and family are everything, or starting this business, or writing this book, or going to yoga every day. But like I said, what I found is that the more I widened what I wasn't afraid of, the more I found that it really was no big deal to go to yoga every day. I could go to yoga every day, and I wasn't going to be fulfilled unless I was making a choice to be fulfilled, and that's about having the integrity to make that choice. Now, how do you make the choice to be fulfilled? Another question to branch off into would be, so many things. It's about noticing what you authentically desire. And I know authenticity is like the most overused term ever in self-help, but I'm thinking of authenticity on more of a somatic level. People will say, what do you think about such and such? I don't know. Yeah, you do. Scan your body, because your body doesn't lie to you. So follow what you feel. What's that somatic response? That's authentic. Mm-hmm. So what's authentic for you? Being grateful. Noticing the places where you go into victim mode. All of us do it. I do it too when I get triggered. And it's not about trying never to go into victim mode or always be authentic or really even getting into that always never trap. It's more so about moment to moment to moment presence, as you mentioned. What do I notice and what's my right action, as the Buddhists say it, for this present moment?
Yeah. And allowing yourself to listen to yourself too, so that you know what that integrity is for you, not for your girlfriends or your partner or whoever might be telling you going to yoga every day is going to bring you fulfillment. No, you need to be able to listen. And that's a process in and of itself too. And to be able to feel what your body feels and listen to those messages. It's not always easy.
It's not, it's funny. I mean, like, we're all built so differently. I don't know how you not listen. Those people who just, when something isn't working for me, it is just intolerable to my spirit. It just, it's like, I just haven't ever I seem to be missing the chip for ignoring that something is not working. It's like I have to verbalize it or voice it. And sometimes that's been to my detriment. Sometimes people are, like, Swoboda, shut the fuck up with telling me everything that you think. And that's been a learning process too.
I laugh because I know that. I hear that in my own life too, which made me laugh. Like, I get that. Do I need to know every detail of how you're feeling about this? And
yeah, especially in partnered relationships, right? It's like sometimes with my, my now husband, these moments where he'll kind of look at me and it's like, it's not that I'm trying to disrespect you here, but do we really need to analyze this? Do we really need to parse through all of this? Or could we both just apologize and call it a day? Yeah. And speaking of fulfillment, what's the more fulfilling choice when someone presents that question to you? For me, I'm glad to notice that more often than not, and more as I get older, it seems to become, I'd like to just apologize and call it a day and move on. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, really listening to yourself is an important step. And, there are shades of this, which is, I think, what we're discussing. First, there's actually knowing how to dial down and listen in. And later, you get to the point where it's like, okay, so I can listen and maybe not always have to emote or express or cathart or analyze what is coming up for me. Yeah.
Now, what are there things that get in your way from using that "Am I in integrity?" question?
Sure.
What kinds of things get in your way?
I think it's the same. In my experience, I've got 7 years coaching experience. I've worked with a lot of different people, my own life, self-help junkie, self-avowed and proud. And it's always seems to come down to a lack of self-care. It's when people aren't taking time to get still, to get enough sleep, to make time for play, and getting still can mean prayer, to eat things that are nourishing them. They start, and I really mean that. I mean, there are a lot of people who have no idea the effect that sugar and caffeine have on their energy levels and their judgment and their emotional state. And, it seems like if we would just slow down. I was just working on something related to this, and I ran across this quote from Lily Tomlin, and her quote was, "For fast-acting relief, just slow down." And I was like, that's a knee slapper for me.
It's awesome.
But yeah, just slow down. What are you doing? It's like, if we, not you, I'm using a conversational you, but if we, any of us, are going through life so quickly that we don't have time to notice, what the fuck is the point?
And do you think it's the lack of self-care that gets in the way of being able to listen to what we need in the moments so that we can know what that integrity is? The numbing or the busyness or the lack of play acts as a barrier to hearing the integrity piece.
I think that's at the core of it. I think that anybody who's dialed into self-care can't help but bring presence to what fulfillment is for them, or hearing what they need, or at least having some kind of clue. I don't want to present it as if it's like, oh, self-care equals clarity. I think it's more so that self-care is actually what gets you dialed into when something's up, when those red flag moments are happening, as well as to get you to resonate with or gravitate towards the things that are going to bring more peace or more meaning. Or the more I dial into self-care, the more I realize, coming from a business perspective, that it really informs what I say yes and no to. Mm. That there is something that happens in my body when a request is made of my time for an interview or a collaborative project or something else. And sometimes it's just as simple as something just doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I have had a couple of times now where something didn't feel quite right and I hesitated to take action, and it's just that little mm-hmm. And later on down the road, I find out that there's some kind of drama. Probably the worst example would be somebody I was potentially collaborating with ended up finding out that they were using a fake name and taking money from people on the internet. And I totally had that red flag feeling of, take a moment with that one, Kate. Mm-hmm. Doesn't feel quite right. And, I call it my spidey sense now. It gets more and more honed the more that I take time for that self-care.
Definitely.
And on the note of self-care, speaking of spidey senses, anybody who's listening to this, if you start taking care of yourself and people start calling you selfish, that is your red flag right there. Okay? That right there is your red flag. Back away from that person.
Yes, most definitely. I talk with a lot of people.
Passion, but back away.
I talk with a lot of moms, especially about that. Being selfish is a good thing, because in the end of the day, we have ourselves, and we need that more than anything. And to be able to tap into the integrity, like you spoke to, so that we can know, so we can have that spidey sense. I love that. I love the humor that you bring to all of this too. It just lightens it up so much. It makes it so much fun. But yeah, that self-care piece is not being selfish. It's actually, I think, one of the most generous things you can do, really, for everybody around you and yourself, more than anything. I like that. Back away with compassion.
But back away.
Now, do you have any other sort of ways that you, practical ways that you get past the obstacles that may creep in, keeping you away from a good self-care practice? Or do you feel, I think it's perfectly acceptable, knowing your work, that you've gotten a good rhythm and you have a good practice of taking care of yourself. So I don't know, I almost feel like there aren't a lot of obstacles that maybe get in your way anymore, but
sure.
Or things not that you don't have obstacles, but I know you set up a lot of things in your life that support you to be in touch with when the obstacles might come.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love the way you just laid that out. It makes me sound really fantastic. So we could go with that.
I do know you're human too, so.
Oh God, yeah, I get a lot of obstacles. For one thing, I have an autoimmune disease, so it affects my energy levels. There are days that, even though I follow a really great treatment protocol and all of that stuff, I still have days where I wake up and for no reason that I can figure out, nothing to do with diet, nothing to do with anything, I am down and out for the count. And that is a real challenge. How do I experience fulfillment in the midst of that? Or how do I practice self-care? Or I've got a deadline and I'm exhausted, and all the parts of me that are pissed that something is happening to my body that I have no control over, and now I'm exhausted and I have 5 things I need to do today, like that. And it's just, I just make decisions based on what seems right in the moment. Sometimes what's right in the moment is sit down and get her done, and I'll find that in an hour I'm okay. And sometimes what's right in the moment is I'm laying on the couch and I'm watching TV, and sometimes what's right in the moment is crying. I am big on crying. Like I am like, if you know how you can feel that tension building and building and building over a day or a course of days, and you know that a good cry would make you feel better. I'm like, I will go turn on the saddest song in the world. I'll just go into it. I need to cry.
Yeah.
Release.
I like the idea of something helping you get there too, because sometimes you do need that. You know it needs to come, and you need that little boost to get you over the edge.
Yeah, and I can resist it so much, and then as soon as I've had 5 minutes of crying, I'm done. And my husband will say that he knows when I'm like in that space, and he's just like waiting for when I'm going to cry. But I used to resist crying. I used to be embarrassed by it, get that choked up feeling in my throat because I'd be ashamed to cry. Mm-hmm. Now it's just like, I just cry. So the place that I'm in my life right now, which I'm incredibly proud of because I've worked hard to get here, and I did not come from here, and I was not born with the tools that I use today. Mm-hmm. The place is one of being aware of what's happening for me and aware of how I need to respond, and having a hell of a lot of compassion for the times when I don't do it so-called perfectly. Right. And that brings an enormous amount of groundedness to my life. So if that's what it's not so much that you do the things to get to that place over there, or to be in the place that I'm describing, that where there's a sense of real groundedness, a real power around the decisions that I make, a real awareness. It's more like the same shit comes up for me that comes up for you and that comes up for every single person who's watching this. And I've just made a really committed choice to work with what comes up in a very specific way. And by very specific way, I mean the whole array of tools that I've learned and that I have at my disposal. So, and I kind of put all of those into courage practice. And in a weird way, that equation seems to lead to a lot of fulfillment in my life. Yeah. And it feels really good to actually say that. Because like I said, there was definitely a time in my life where I could not have said that.
Yeah. It's really very inspiring. And I know I talked before, like, oh, you must not have these obstacles. But I think one thing that is so wonderful about listening to what you have to say is that you are so real and grounded. And it's so obvious that it hasn't, that you aren't higher than anybody else or anything like that. It's all just the real life shit that we all have. It's just knowing to move from that place of integrity, like you said at the beginning, and come back to what that means for you, so that you can right now, with the tears or the yelling or whatever it might be, or the fantastic launch of a program, the good and the bad, and feel it all and be with it and make your choices for what's next with all of that in mind.
Yeah, you got it. That's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about fulfillment, Kate. It's been truly inspiring. I know that a lot of people are going to be very inspired by what you had to say as well. Do you want to leave us with any final words or anything that's coming up for you in 2013?
I would just want to say for anybody listening to this that anything that you think is not possible in terms of, well, really with anything, but especially with those long-standing patterns that you think would be really difficult to shift, you can shift them, and it really is possible. And if anybody resonates with my work, I'm sure they'll know where to find me, and if not, I hope this has been of service. I just really want this to be something that people can take away with them.
Wonderful, and I'll have all your information in the post so that people can find you, which I encourage them to do. Thanks again, Kate, for being here. It's really been an incredible pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.